Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Nkenna. I am responsible for everything that goes on here. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, we have another nursing themed video, and today we're talking about nurse residencies. What are they? What will they be like? And my advice for you. So to dive right in and just give you guys some background details, what exactly is a nurse residency? In my opinion, it's basically practicum, but you're getting paid. After doing a quick Google search, I saw that it is described as being a time for new graduate nurses to adjust to the workplace, transitioning from classroom to bedside practice. And after talking to a lot of my preceptors and professors, this is a relatively new thing. Even as recently as 8 to 10 years ago, this did not exist. But it's a program structured to help retain new graduate nurses within the profession, because the first year of nursing is said to be the hardest and it has the highest attrition rate, meaning that a lot of people leave the profession after the first year because it is simply too difficult, and they want, they are left thinking, did I make the wrong career choice? Or they're just really not finding that rhythm. And even after talking to a lot of nurses at work, they have also said that they didn't start to feel comfortable and competent as a nurse until the second year of practice. During residency, you're paired up with a preceptor or preceptors. They take you under their wing. They really teach you how to be a nurse. And this is like an extended orientation period. So instead of you taking patients by yourself, you're paired with a nurse and you guys have your daily assignment. You shadow them, but you're also doing hands-on stuff. So again, that's why I said it's like practicum or capstone, whatever you might call it, because you're still taking patients and you're still learning, but you're trying to move into that role where you are comfortable to take patients by yourself. During residency, you do competencies, you do skill checkoffs, you do computer-based learning modules, all of these things to make you a more competent nurse. So getting into the application process for my residency, I started applying in November and December. Most applications didn't open until mid to late January. If you were employed somewhere, so let's say you're a patient care technician or you're a nurse extern, those applications opened earlier and they interviewed those people first before they open the applications to everybody else. And this is typically standard practice wherever you go. They will interview their own internal applicants first, and they will open it to them first, and then whatever is remaining, then they will interview whoever's left. So if a unit has 20 spots for new graduate nurses, they interview all their internal applicants and they decide to select 15. Then those 5 remaining spots, you may not know that there are 5 remaining spots, but they know that, okay, we only have 5 spots to work with. We're only going to hire 5 more people. So we might get hundreds of applicants, but we're only interviewing to secure 5 spots. So I received my first job offer on February 28th, but I did not actually commit to a single hospital until April, and that was when I made my final decision. So going into a little more detail with that is that as I received offers, I made verbal commitments. However, I did not put pen to paper and contractually sign to a hospital until April. And I say contractually because I actually had to sign something. However, the hospital that I'm going to be working at, they don't have contracts, and what you will find out with a lot of these hospitals with new graduate nurses, they require you to work for at least 2 years. Some will say 1 year, but if you try to leave before then you get into situations where you have to pay back $10,000 to break your contract, or they just see when it is. I've heard of somebody left 4 months before their 2-year contract was up and they tried to charge them the full $10,000, and then other people have said a couple of $1,000s their hospital has tried to charge them. So fortunately, I'm in a position where if I wanted to, I could leave after 6 months. I don't see myself doing that. I really hope I don't have to do that. However, I am at a hospital that did not make me sign a contract to stay with them with this for a certain time period. So moving into more details about my own particular nurse residency, I'll be working in a neuro/neurosurgery ICU, and I was told during my interview that it is a trauma neurosurgery ICU, so I will be getting quite a bit of trauma cases as well. So that's really nice. I'll be working night shift, which I've worked night shift before as a patient care technician and as a nurse extern. It's not my first choice. However, once I get into a rhythm, I really don't mind it. But I mean, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to be working night shift. So I'm going to just really try and prep myself. And of course, I'm sure once I really get into the groove of things and I'm consistently working it every single week, then I will come back to you guys and let you guys know my tips and tricks for surviving night shift. After completing my competencies, so they will give me a packet or a sheet of things and skills that I need to be able to do before I can take patients on my own. Once I am checked off, signed off on all of those things, and they say, hey, she's competent, we trust her, she can take patients on her own, I will be getting a raise. So they described it as at the end of orientation or once I complete my competencies. So it's assuming that the two don't coincide with each other. So let's say orientation ends in 4 months, but I still need a little extra practice, and maybe at 6 months is when I really get it. Whichever comes first. Not whichever comes first. Whenever I am comfortable and competent to take patients on my own, that's when I get that raise. I know with a lot of these residency programs, people don't get bumped up in pay until after the first 1 or 2 years. So it's nice to know that by the end of this year, I should be getting a raise within my role. At my facility, we're using the Epic charting system. I've used Meditech and I've also used Cerner. I prefer Epic. I think it's just more user-friendly, but honestly, this is not a make or break thing for me. It's just a preference. I know that a lot of hospitals are moving to Epic, and honestly, like I said, it's just really user-friendly. It's easy to navigate, and it's a plus because as a nurse extern and as a patient care tech, then I've gotten comfortable with the system, so there won't be a learning curve for me once I start residency. For my position, I will be required to obtain ACLS, so that's Advanced Cardiovascular Life Support. However, the hospital that I'm working at is not making me pay for it independently. They have told me that I will have 6 months to obtain that through work. So that's really, really nice in terms of I don't have to come out of pocket at least $150 to $200 for a certification that I need to do my job. Honestly, I'm not sure what orientation is going to look like due to COVID-19. I've heard some people are doing their orientation online and then they're going in for a half day. Some people are just having regular orientation, social distancing. I honestly don't know what it's like. This is still very new. I've talked to other people that are in my cohort that are on med-surg floors, and they've said that their orientation, their start date has been pushed back to August, and some people till October. I know the hospital said that they are in a hiring freeze, so they're not really trying to bring on new people. And even where I currently work as a patient care technician, people who graduated in May that were supposed to be starting this month or next month, they are not starting until September. So I'm really grateful that because I'm in an ICU position and the ICUs at the hospital that I'm at have been taking COVID patients, then I will still be able to start on time at the end of July. I kind of touched on this a little bit briefly earlier, but my residency is 4 months in total. So that's 16 weeks, and that might seem really, really short to some people, and I'm a little bit nervous. However, I have been working in a hospital since I started nursing school and even after, so I'm staying fresh on my skills. I'm really staying in that environment. So I'm not terribly worried, and I just am going to use those 16 weeks to really try and pick up on things as fast as I can, ask as many questions as I can. Because honestly, I think all of us, once we finish nursing school, we're like, I want to start working, I want to hop into it, I want to be the best nurse that I can be as soon as possible. So it is short. However, I'm just going to take the cards as they're dealt to me and make the most of the experience. Another thing that I mentioned previously is that I start working in mid to late July. So if everything goes as planned and I finish out my competencies and I'm good to go, then I will be working on my own by late November, early December, which is crazy to think because by the end of this year, then I will be flying solo. The training girls will be off. So some more details about my application and interview process. I only applied to ICU residencies and I applied to a total of 8. In total, I received 5 ICU offers, 1 med-surg offer, and then I declined at 2 other hospitals. The med-surg offer came from a panel interview that I had where they had a PCU progressive care unit, they had ER, ICU, and then they had med-surg, and all of the different departments, they decided who wanted to offer me in that interview, and the med-surg manager decided to offer me, and I declined. I also received 2 other offers for interviews. However, I declined. One was in a CVICU, and it was simply because the recruiting manager was just very sloppy, very unprofessional. She was grossly negligent. Like when we would say, okay, we're having an interview on this day, then she would ghost me for weeks at a time, or would say, hey, this is the day that the interview is happening, never send me any details or anything. And this was going on from February to May that this happened. And finally, I just got to the point where this was my #1 top choice hospital, and I decided to stand up for myself and not allow this to continue and have some dignity and say, hey, I just, after several failed attempts of getting in contact with you, I've decided to move forward and accept a position somewhere else. and that's just the fact of the matter. And the final place, it just wasn't feasible. I panic applied. It was super far. It would have been almost a 2-hour commute, and I just panic applied because it was like, I would rather apply all these places and have a bunch of options than only apply to a few and not get options. Because like I just said, had I only applied to my dream hospital, I would have been here, you know, looking stupid and really panicking. Something that was really uncomfortable for me throughout the whole process was declining offers. A lot of these recruiters will ask, why are you declining the offer? And if they're bold, they might ask you, you know, how much are you getting paid to go to this other place? So just simple rules of thumb, and it's only 2. I would say be honest, but also keep them on a need to know basis. So for me, one recruiter, the first opportunity that I declined, it was the med-surg offer. And I said I was offered a position in a specialty that I'm not interested in. And then I also said that it was not competitive pay. That particular hospital was offering new grads $25, and that was before differentials, and other offers that I got were anywhere from $3 to $6 higher than that. So I wasn't willing to take the pay cut, and it would have been a commute anyway. And again, it was not in the specialty that I was interested in. With all this being said, always try to leave it on good terms. Always be polite. Don't say it in a way that's rude, because with the hospitals and just with any industry, you never know who knows who. And these recruiters, they can leave one hospital system and go work for another. So you don't want to burn a bridge at one place and not think that it's going to catch up to you later. So moving into some fast advice and things to keep in mind when you're prepping for an interview. 1, wear scrubs if they ask or if it's explicitly stated. Otherwise, always assume that it's business professional. 2, bring at least 5 copies of your resume to pass out in case they don't have copies already available. 3, arrive at least 15 minutes early, and I would go ahead and say 30 minutes just to err on the safe side. 4, maintain good posture throughout the whole process. 5, turn off your phone in the car. I have conducted interviews for schools, and I've sat on a panel, and we have a grading sheet, and they will look at, you know, one of the components being, oh, this person was on their phone the whole time in the waiting room. They were fidgeting on their phone. They were on social media. They weren't being social with other people, you know, so that is a key component. And just from seeing that, I was like, wow, it makes me wonder how many job interviews I've gone to, and they've seen me, maybe I was checking my email or I was checking details about the interview, but to them, it looks like I'm not interested. I'm just flipping through the gram, trying to see what's going on, and I have more important places to be. So I say all that to say, turn off your phone in car, put it in your bag, put it in your pocket, leave it in the car, do whatever you have to do, just stay off of your phone. 6, try not to fidget with your hands. I know this is a nervous tick that a lot of us have, but try to remain and look as calm as possible, and fidgeting with your hands, it is the most obvious way to show that you're nervous. 7, always ask questions. Even when they say, do you have any questions? Don't sit there and say, no, I don't have any questions. Even if it's just one question, always ask questions. And even if it's the same question at every interview, always try to ask at least one question. 8, make eye contact. 9, keep your hair out of your face. Again, you don't want to be fidgeting, touching your face, and distracting attention away from what you're talking about. And then 10, really sell yourself. This is a time to put your best foot forward. These recruiters spend all day interviewing people. They go through hundreds, thousands of applications, and this is your time to set yourself apart. You know, on paper, you may look as good as the next 5, 10 people. So you really want to use this as your time to shine through and secure that spot. This is one of the few times that it's okay to be cocky. In a sea of 1,000 applicants, tell them why they should pick you. This is your time to say, I'm dope, I'm qualified, and here's what I'm going to bring to your unit. Some tips if you're conducting a virtual interview: pick a clean space as your background. Nobody wants to see your dirty laundry on the floor. Pick a well-lit area. You don't want your interview struggling to see you. You don't want them thinking that they're looking at security camera footage. Pick a quiet space. Nobody wants to hear Netflix in the background. Nobody wants to hear your mom screaming on the phone, making international calls. Download the meeting software prior to the interview. Troubleshoot, because again, this is a professional setting. Nobody's going to really, just assume that nobody's giving you grace for having technical difficulties. Again, they have hundreds, thousands of people to interview. They don't have time to be sitting here because you didn't know how to download the WebEx or download Zoom and you showed up 5 minutes late to a 15-minute interview. Still dress up. We're gonna call this the interview mullet. It's business on the top. I just just rolled out of bed 30 minutes ago on the bottom. They don't have to know what's going on down here, but still you want to look well put together, like you really put effort in, and that goes a long way. Due to COVID-19, I had 3 virtual interviews. One hospital allowed us to sign up for as many slots in different specialties as we wanted, so that was really nice, and it was of course on a first come first serve basis. Each interview typically lasted about 15 minutes, and most of the time was spent refreshing their memory of things that were on my resume or answering questions like, so tell me a little bit more about yourself. Honestly, the whole process felt very rushed, and I just felt like I didn't get a chance to prove myself, but I did really sharpen my elevator pitch during this time. And again, this is when it's key to have an elevator pitch. Say all the need to know things and you can sell yourself in a minute or less. Honestly, we're still navigating COVID-19. We don't know what it's going to be like in the fall. And with nursing school, you know, people graduate in May, people graduate in July, people graduate in August, people graduate in December. So it's a year-round type of thing. So we don't know what's going to happen for people who are graduating this summer, let alone people graduating in December. So this might be the new normal in terms of interview process and respecting social distancing. So moving into the final part of this video, this is also a time for you to interview these unit managers and these hospitals. You really need to ask them questions that challenge them. Why should I even work here? This is not a one-way interview, because the same way that they're trying to find out what can we get from you, you need to find out what can you get from them as well. So previously I mentioned you should always ask at least one question in an interview. I have a whole blog post on this. I'll make sure that I link my blog down in the description box below and link that particular post. I have a whole section full of questions that you guys should be asking on these new graduate nurse residency interviews. But just to give you guys a little sample, a few questions that I personally asked on my interviews that you guys should definitely ask on your interviews as well. What are the components of this residency program? May I take a tour of the unit? What shift will I be orienting on, and what shift will I subsequently be working on? What opportunities are there for growth on the unit? So an example on this, just to expand on this for you guys, if you are, say for instance, working at a pediatric hospital, and a lot of those nurses, a lot of people graduate when they're 21, 22, first degree as a nurse, go into that position, they move into a leadership role, they stay in that position, and they stay in that until they are ready to retire and they're in their late 60s. So let's say it is your dream to become a charge nurse or a nurse educator or whatever it is at your local pediatric hospital. A lot of these people move into these roles, they stay there, and they don't move out of them. So if that's your dream to move into one of these positions, you may need to consider going somewhere else, because they don't have room for you to come in and think that you're going to be the newest, latest, and greatest charge nurse. Not saying that it won't happen, but the opportunity is very slim. And I've been told on other interviews, you know, they ask me, what are your 3 to 5 year plans? I say, oh, I'd like to move into a leadership role, really focusing on becoming a very competent nurse, precepting new graduate nurses. And they say, great, we're always looking for somebody to move into those charge nurse roles, move into the educator roles, move into whatever role that they have available. So some places they might frown upon it, but other places they are looking for those people that are highly motivated and ready to climb up the ranks. Moving back to the questions, how do you evaluate progress in this role? What are the staffing ratios on this unit, and how often do you abide by those staffing ratios? Is there any incentive for obtaining a certification within our specialty? And this is a particularly good one because I asked this on an interview and they told me that if you obtain your CCRN, then they will pay you a $3,000 bonus. That's a good chunk of change to get paid to get certified and take an exam and just have those credentials added onto your resume, added onto your title, and then eventually make you a more competitive applicant when it comes time for graduate school. Next question, how long is this residency program? Is there a mentoring program in place for new graduate nurses? And then finally, what types of equipment and patients will I see on this unit? So yeah, that's all that I have for you guys. I know it was a little bit of a lengthy video, but I definitely hope that you guys found this helpful. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. If there are any types of videos that you guys would like to see in the future, definitely let me know down below. You guys can find me on Instagram, my blog, also my podcast. It is the A Nurse Named Ken podcast. And yeah, I will catch you guys later. Bye.